but we'll read through it. Pink Floyd vocalist Roger Waters is being criticized for holding a Palestinian flag during a meeting with Colombian President Gustavo Petro and for his views on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Hold on, I got burp. There you go. Let's burp as soon as we start talking about this terrible stuff that's happened. As we all know, on October 7th, Hamas launched an attack on Israel, which said was retribution for worsening conditions for the Palestinians under Israel's occupation. Israel declared war on Hamas, launched hundreds of airstrikes on Gaza Strip, followed by extensive ground operations. At least 1,200 people were killed in Israel, the AP has reported, and more than 17,700 Palestinians, according to the health authorities in Gaza, the AP says. So, killed 1,200 Jews, lost 17,700 Palestinians, which is pretty fucked. And there's a lot of innocent people dying in there. And so Israel has the right to defend themselves, but goddamn, they are just murdering children. So I'm not really for that. I'm all about this ceasefire thing, and let's try to work this out peacefully. But, you know, Israel is a sovereign nation and they have the right to at least defend themselves. Maybe not genocide a whole people, but at least to defend themselves. It's not funny. The U.S. vetoed a draft United Nations Security Council resolution to demand an immediate humanitarian ceasefire on Friday. The resolution was put forward by the United Arab Emirates and had backing of 13 other members, although the UK abstained. So 13 other members of the United Nations, am I getting that right? The United Nations Security Council. But the UK abstained out of that. Waters, a well-known pro-Palestinian activist, met with Petro in Bogota, Colombia on December 7th, 2 days after he performed in the capital city. During the meeting, Waters requested that Petro lead an initiative before the International Court of Justice to ensure that the Genocide Convention is respected and to put an end to an ongoing violence in the Gaza Strip. Pink Floyd co-founder of... so we should actually watch that because there was... where I had that up, actually. Where is it? Let me pull up YouTube. I just watched it. Shut up. God bless America. I was on the Rogers thing again. So this is what he said in...
as I recall, I don't know when it was, but some time ago, I actually wrote a letter to all of the lovely people in Colombia telling you to vote what's his name? Your president, Gustavo. And
you forgot the name that he was endorsing.
Did!
You did it! Look at...
Well done. Petro, is that right?
Gustavo.
So thank you for that.
Gracias por eso. Tal vez.
Perhaps you could persuade him to write a letter to the ICJ, evoking the Genocide Convention so that we could get a hearing from a legal body to try and get them to stop the genocide that is going on in Gaza as we speak.
This is nothing new for Roger Waters. We've been following this for over a year now. We know that Roger Waters has been talking about this for a long time. And it's all come to a head.
It's pretty weird that most of the governments in the West, not here, thank goodness. South America, there's a bit more sense, but in the North Atlantic, the United States of America and the UK and most of the European Union are all cheering on the genocide as hard as they can. Well, we are going to change that by raising our voices. You are all part of that general choir. And we will change that, and we will help our brothers and sisters.
Why does this Mark Ruffalo thing have to be like right up our asses right now? We can click on the next video to watch Mark Ruffalo. God damn, I hate that.
In Palestine to get equal human rights with all the other people who live between the River Jordan and the Mediterranean Sea. Anyway.
Equal rights, and you know,
Elon, how are you?
Good, Mario. Yeah,
this
it's been quite a.
This is the heated debate that everyone's talking about that happened between. That had Andrew Tate, Alex Jones, Elon Musk. That's just funny. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of big attitudes. Anyway, we won't go there at this moment. But yeah, so obviously Roger Waters has a whole thing going on that he's been sort of since about 2005. I think he's been doing this. He's been a part of BDS, the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions organization, and to put an end to the open air prison of Gaza, which, yeah, that shouldn't be allowed. That shouldn't be happening. It's really interesting, honestly, to see Muslim support for Gaza, but there's no Muslim support for the Uyghur Muslims in China. Like real ass slaves. They're just like, the Muslims forgot about them. Muslims are like, fuck it. They're in China. We don't care. Anyways, yeah, I mean, peace to the Middle East. Obviously, all jokes aside, ceasefire now. Fucking, you've demolished enough of these people's lives. I think it's time to stop and fucking send your Mossad after these pricks who did the attacks, man. Like, there has to be a better way than just bombing an entire region back to the Stone Age. It just doesn't seem like a practical way to destroy the enemy. It just seems like a way to destroy an entire people. Waters, a well-known... Okay, we already read that. During the meeting, Waters requested that Petro lead an initiative before the International Court of Justice to ensure that the Genocide Convention is respected and to put an end to the ongoing violence in the Gaza Strip. Now, that was what he said in Colombia, what he said on stage. This is what he's saying to the actual president of Colombia. The Pink Floyd co-founder told the Colombian president that their common goal is to fight for human rights of everyone in the world, to which Petro replied, "We are in agreement on that." He also gifted a signed guitar to the president's youngest daughter, and a pair held up a Palestinian flag, which they held it up upside down. People are coming after him for that. Waters has been slammed online after right-wing media personality Ali London, a Waters and Petro's meeting, shared a clip of Waters and Petro's meeting on X. Newsweek reached out to Waters. Okay, who gives a fuck? So this is what Ali London, if you guys don't know who Ali London is, he is a right-leaning pundit and a reporter. And they were I believe they were the ones who transitioned into a Korean. I think they were a Brit that transitioned into a Korean. Is that right, Ali London? But now they've made a whole life now out of just talking shit about people like woke and talking out against. They are the one that that turned Korean. Let me see. He identified as South Korean. Ali London is a British influencer and media personality who gained attention for his strong interest in Korean culture, particularly K-pop and cosmetic surgery to resemble his favorite K-pop idol, Jimin, from the group BTS. Ali London has been vocal about identifying as non-binary and using they/them pronouns. It's important to note that discussions about Ali London have been controversial, with some people criticizing the appropriation of the Korean culture, others expressing concern about the impact of extreme plastic surgery on mental health. Yeah. And then so now I don't believe that I think they go by he, him now. Let's see if they put their things, their pronouns in there. No, there's no pronouns. Where's those pronouns, Ollie London? Actually, they're not bad. They talk a lot about trans issues, obviously. So I watch it. I don't know why that is so interesting to me. The whole trans thing is just so fascinating. It's just incredible. All right, so that's Ollie London, so you guys get a little bit of Ollie London, who that is. And let's read this. Pink Floyd vocalist Roger Waters holds Palestinian flag with Colombian President Gustavo Petro. In a recent interview, he attempted to downplay the October 7th, saying, "We don't know what happened. Maybe there were some individual cases of civilians getting killed." And they're referring to an interview he did with Glenn Greenwald, which we covered here. And where he's saying that he's not sure if this whole war was a false flag operation. He was also saying stuff about like he didn't know if there was actual victims who got killed. He pointed out that they were invading army barracks when they first were invading the Hamas terrorists. And yeah, I mean, that's very controversial in itself because we all saw videos of a young lady with blood on her bottom. We all saw pictures of people just getting murdered and videos of families just getting murdered and shot and cut up and stuff. Now, obviously, all of that can be faked. It didn't look fake. It looked like a lot of people died. It was horrible. And I'm not trying to say one thing was worse than the other, but I'm definitely seeing a lot. There's just so many dead children on my feed right now just because I'm following this whole war. And, oh God, there's so many Gaza children who are in the Gaza Strip who are just getting blown to pieces. It's just absolutely awful. Let's watch this video with Roger Waters going into and meeting. This video actually isn't that great. Let's go check out the other one.
As I recall,
Shut up. Shut up. Oh, here we go.
Hey.
good to see you.
ELA.
This is so funny. He gets like snippy with one of the ladies, one of the handlers.
Two L's.
2 L's.
I did 2 L's.
I did 2 L's.
How do you spell Waters?
And look, he has to be a little prick about it. How do you spell Walters?
Okay.
It's a Squire bass. It's basic bass shit, but it's nice that he signed it. I mean that bass has become valuable now.
Okay.
Otherwise, it'd been like $150, $200 bass.
¿Y cómo vio el público?
Yeah.
How did you see the public?
Yeah, and Francine, I guess, as well. My heart is not here. It's
And so now they are holding the flag upside down. The black is supposed to be on top. And people notice that shit, okay? So in this meeting, he was talking to the president, saying that he wants the president to rally with other countries and organizations who want a immediate ceasefire. So that's what he was talking to the president for, which is, that kind of influence as a musician, I think is beautiful, that you could go to a president of a whole country and be like, yo, bitch, write a note, send it to the UN Security Council. I want you to fucking join, get on board with this whole like peace thing and try to end the constant bombardment. 17,000, almost 18,000 people murdered in the last few days. It's fucking horrifying. Horrifying. All right, so heading back over here, people are pissed off. Obviously, everybody's pissed off. Everybody's pissed off at Roger Waters or anybody that has any kind of influence. They're mad at him anytime they tell him how they feel about stuff. And if they don't like what you say, then you're the enemy. It's like, I don't agree with you. You must be a racist. All right, so let's get into these. Roger Waters wears swastikas on stage. Bizarre guy. He never wore a swastika on stage. That is all propaganda, mainly from the German government, because they're trying to say he was wearing swastikas on stage, which is not true. It was the cross, the hammers, his fucking hammers, the walking hammers that is iconic to the wall visuals. What's Kanye West doing trending now? Let's see. Damn, now I have to remove his versions of Pink Floyd songs in my playlist. Like, come on. Like, don't be such a pussy. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, who cares? And you're only hurting Pink Floyd. You're not really hurting, well, you're probably hurting Roger. He gets paid off all that shit. The true identity of many are beginning to unveil. Dude, he's been like this for fucking since 2005. Like, people just are now seeing it. Rock stars' opinions are irrelevant. Maybe, but he definitely has enough sway to fucking talk the president of Colombia to fucking write notes. Sold his soul to the devil. Nazi. Look, they're trying to say this is Nazi. This is not Nazi. He's fucking... It's a stage show he's been doing for fucking 30, 40 years. Look, this is great. More of this. Nah, end of Pink Floyd. Wow, how is that the end of Pink Floyd? These people are fucking stupid. Look, I can agree. Roger Waters is a twat. He's a twat. He's a pompous twat. But he's been very consistent in his messaging about the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Okay, so they highlight some of the comments here. He's so pro-Palestinian that he's so pro-Palestine that they hold the flag upside down. These people are morons. One bigger than the next, one person wrote. Yes. And I'm sure whoever wrote that is as successful as Roger Waters or the president of Colombia. I'm sure that they're much smarter than both of them, who are both, very successful human beings. I'm sure that person who wrote that knows how big of a moron Roger Waters is. Again, Roger Waters is an ass, but he's had some points, and a lot of it ended up being true. It's wild. He is absolutely disgusting, said another. Heartbreaking to see a legend fall from grace. Someone else. It's been years. Sold his soul to the devil, a fourth person wrote. A fifth added, whoa, old hippie virtue signaling. However, not everyone is unhappy with the singer-songwriter, and some took to the social media platform to praise him. Once more, at Roger Waters says exactly what needs to be said, refuse the reality pushed by the Western enablers of the apartheid Israeli genocide, ceasefire now, end the occupation, justice now, one person wrote while sharing a post from Waters' account. And I agree with that. It's like ceasefire, fucking get the fuck out of their land that the international community has established is their land, and stop settling on it. Stop stealing their resources. $500 billion worth of fucking natural gas under there. So many thanks for sharing. Roger Waters is our voice from the bottom of our heart, said another comment. Filmmaker Vin Afuso, who worked on Waters on a documentary on the Palestinian situation called Walled Off, told Newsweek that supporting Palestinians was not inherently anti-Semitic. And again, this is what happened was anytime you criticize Israel, you are considered anti-Semitic, and you can criticize a government and their leaders and not hate the people as a whole. Some people hate people as a whole, though. So there was this, oh my God, I just saw this terrible footage of these young people at like a Starbucks or something. Like, where was this? It was like at a Starbucks or something. And they decide, oh, geez, what's going on? What happened? All right. Did the internet go down? I think I saw it on the New York Post, actually. It was, let's go over here. It was, oh, here we go. No, wait. That wasn't it. Here it is. You got this linebacker of a girl back here. Check this shit out. This was disgusting. Where? Oh, this ain't the video. Oh, wait. Where's the video? Let me see. Let's just find this video. This is crazy. So these 3 employees block. Oh my God, I hate you. I hate you all. And they end up firing these anti-Semitic. Look at these people. U.S. coffee shop fires 3 anti-Semitic staffers blocking Jewish customers from using the washroom. Can we just see the video, please? Where's the video? Fine. Oh, here's the New York Post thing. All right.
Currently, this is a private property.
I won't be going to the
I do
restroom.
need you to leave.
I know Israel loves taking private property and saying it's their own, but we gotta head.
You're not going to let me
You're
go
also
into the
misgendering them,
restroom?
so I need you to leave.
We have another
No, I
restroom.
want to use this one.
They're not letting you.
All you
We
want to
don't-
get is a video
Other
of it saying
patrons-
that Zionism is
Why are you afraid? If you
anti-Semitism, because it
agree
is.
with it,
If that Asian woman walked into a place and was like, and some, like, if some Jewish person or some, even a black person or that white linebacker bitch there, like blocking the bathroom entrance, like there would be like cops everywhere. There would outrage everywhere. But now they're allowing this kind of shit to go down. This anti-Semitic shit. Like, see, it's like we have to, it's like the pendulum swings one way and our dumbasses here in America have to swing the fucking sledgehammer, the other direction. You have dumbass kids out there supporting terrorist groups as you have, and then just being blatantly anti-Semitic to this woman who was like, what did this woman, this Jewish lady, have anything to do with what's going on in fucking Gaza? That's what's so stupid. It was like when all the Asian people were getting fucking beaten up because of COVID. A lot of times it was black folks punching Asian people, throwing them in front of trains and shit. After 9/11, the Muslims still get shit, but now the Jews, like, it's literally the most extreme bullshit is how we react to stuff. We are just such a reactionary country of bored people who don't have anything better to do than to block Israeli old ladies from using the bathroom. Let's watch how this plays out. This is just terrible.
why are you afraid that I will take a picture of it? Why are you afraid?
I'm not afraid of it.
Then why are you not letting me?
Staffers can be heard telling her you can't steal private property like in Israel before eventually following her inside where Zionism equals fascism was written on the wall.
Because this is what you're
Yeah.
Free Palestine. Now
Free
please.
Palestine. It's always.
Now get out. In a social media post announcing the firing, the owners wrote, "We do not tolerate any behavior at Farley's that makes people feel unwelcome or unsafe." I can't believe these fucking piece of shit kids thought that's and this is a grown ass man too. Look at this dude. You can tell he's a fucking incel, fucking can't make eye contact kind of guy.
Please leave. Thank you.
Look at
It's
him.
always. Yeah.
Oh,
Great.
dude.
Love it.
Damn. The incident comes after a coffee shop owner on the Upper East Side of Manhattan had his entire staff quit over his support for Israel in November. Until members of the Jewish community showed up in droves, volunteering to work shifts and lining up around the block to buy a brew. Anyways, that's what's going on right now on campuses. We just saw all those fucking assholes, the Harvard presidents. Somebody just had to step down. Look at this. Look at this shit.
Now, Claudine Gay, who was the president of Harvard University, has apologized for her testimony. The apology comes amid widespread condemnation. In an interview with the school's student paper, Claudine Gay said, and I quote, "I'm sorry, words matter." Gay told the Harvard student paper that she regretted what she said. She further added, "When words amplify distress and pain, I don't know how you could feel anything but regret." Now it remains to be seen whether the MIT and the Pennsylvania University presidents will follow suit or not.
They did.
Let's revisit the disastrous testimony where presidents of Harvard, MIT, and Pennsylvania universities were grilled over growing anti-Semitism on the college campuses. Let's take a look.
At MIT, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate MIT's code of conduct or rules regarding bullying and harassment? Yes or
Yes. Yes, it does.
no?
If targeted at individuals not making public statements.
Yes or no? Calling for the genocide of Jews does not constitute bullying and harassment?
I have not heard calling for the genocide for Jews on our campus.
But you've heard chants for intifada.
I've heard chants, which can be anti-Semitic depending on the context, when calling for the elimination of the Jewish people.
So those would not be according to the MIT's code of conduct or rules?
That would be investigated as harassment if pervasive and severe.
Ms. McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
No.
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
Wait. Hold on. If I went onto a campus and called for the death of all blacks, if I went onto the campus of Howard University, or what's historically black university. If I went to a HBCU, right? Is that it? And just started calling for the death of all black people, I would be fucking probably punched and beaten to death. Rightfully so. It would be such an abhorrent. I would be arrested. They would find reasons to send me to prison. You can't call for the death of people. You can't. Freedom of speech is limited when it comes into when for calls to action for the harm of other people. That's the limitation. You can't scream fire in a full a theater. You can't just be like fire, 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 and there's no fire and cause a stampede and hurt people. There are limitations to freedom of speech, which we've all agreed is probably for the best. You can say stuff like, I'm not going to say that. You can say stuff about them, but you can't call for the murder of an entire group of people. Free speech does not cover that. Let's make sure. Does free speech cover calling for genocide publicly? Calls for genocide are protected speech. I didn't know that. Shit. Hold on. Let's redact, son. It only took a day for the University of Pennsylvania's president, Liz McGill, to threaten to abandon her university's commitment, already hanging on by a thread, to academic freedom and free expression after a much scrutinized performance in front of the Congressional Committee Tuesday. So let's watch the rest. Watch more of this. and come back.
I am asking, specifically calling for the genocide of Jews. Does that constitute bullying or harassment?
Bullying or harassment, I see.
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill. So is your testimony that you will not answer yes?
If it if the
Yes
speech,
or no?
Look at her
if the
smiling.
speech becomes conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide? The speech is not harassment? This is unacceptable, Ms. McGill. I'm going to give you one more opportunity for the world to see your answer. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's code of conduct when it comes to bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be harassment.
The answer is yes. And Dr. Gay, at Harvard, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
What's the context?
Targeted as an individual, targeted as...
She does look gay, by the way. And it's G-A-Y. Dr. Gay.
Why are you gay?
At an individual.
It's targeted at Jewish students, Jewish individuals. Do you understand your testimony is dehumanizing them? Do you understand that dehumanization is part of anti-Semitism? I will ask you one more time. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying?
So, I got that all wrong, by the way. So you can call for the genocide of an entire people. Let's read this article because I thought if you were calling for violence against people, then it's not cool, but apparently you can. So let's see what happens. It only took a day for the UPenn President Liz McGill to threaten to abandon her university's commitment, already hanging on by a thread to academic freedom and freedom expression, after her much scrutinized performance in front of a congressional committee on Tuesday. On Wednesday night, McGill issued a video statement backtracking her accurate but unsatisfying explanation before Congress of whether calling genocide of Jews is protected free speech. For decades, under multiple Penn presidents and consistent with most universities, Penn policies have been guided by the Constitution and the law. She said, teeing up the inevitable. But in today's world, we are seeing signs of hate proliferation across our campuses and our world in a way not seen in years. These policies need to be clarified and evaluated. And this is what people have been saying for a long time, because this sort of shit has been happening for the last 10 to 15 years in these college campuses, where if the narrative fits a specific side, then you can do whatever you want, say whatever you want. But if not, you get shut down, you get yelled down, you get you get protesters screaming, yelling down the speakers for coming and having a different opinion about them. The colleges have been fermenting these and incubating these ideas of not allowing other people to speak their mind, not allowing the ability for free speech to happen. And they encourage this bullshit. And now you're seeing, this is what was so great about this whole situation. Not that the situation is good, but the best part about this is that we're seeing the hypocrisy and the split of the left, where and you're seeing the hypocrisy of that ideology sort of starting to crumble, because now you have all these people. You have huge donors who are Jewish to these colleges who are like, why would I support a college that wants me to be dead? I'll just pull my fucking funding, millions of dollars of funding from these assholes. And now they're all fucking dancing a different tune, right? Now we have Harvard's president. Oh, I'm sorry. Words matter. No shit. That's what you've been saying for fucking the last 20 years. Words do matter. But the idea that, and I'm not even against these students if it's within the Constitution to be protesting and calling for the genocide Jews. I think it's wrong-minded. I'm not saying they shouldn't have the right to do it. I'm just saying the hypocrisy is so fucking in our face with these fucking idiots who are running these institutions, who are charging just an enormous amount of money for your children to go off and become radicalized assholes. Like it's infuriating. These people that fucking, and all they have to say is like, well, I guess if we're calling for the genocide of black people, they would be trying to figure out ways to fucking get you kicked out of the fucking school, get your life ruined, doxing you on Twitter, doxing you on fucking TikTok. There would be a whole outrage against it. But because it's the Jews and it's the flavor of the month that all these people fucking are pro-Palestine. By the way, I'm fucking pro-Palestine, but I'm not saying that we should be fucking calling for the end of an entire group of people. That's fucking ridiculous. Now you're becoming the oppressor. This is what happens. And it was fucking sickening that the Israelis were referring to people as dogs, trying to dehumanize them, which the shit that Hamas did to the Israelis was fucking animal behavior. It was fucking disgusting. But the response has been just as gross. There's no winning these sort of blood for blood type wars. Really, they should just, if they really want to fuck over, these areas, they're already shutting down communication, shutting down electricity, shutting down water, shutting down all communication so you can't get out. It's getting out. I mean, that's really what's happening over there, is just they're starving them and bombing them, and it's terrible. Terrible. But they shouldn't be fucking completely wiped off the map. Okay, let's see. In today's world where we are seeing signs of hatred. Okay, we got that. That's what UPenn University said. Many of those pressuring universities to punish anti-Semitic speech are rightly calling out these institutions for having double standards, policing microaggressions while letting enthusiastic support for Hamas go unpunished. They've correctly identified the problem but are pursuing the wrong solution. The right solution is to eliminate all speech codes and protect free speech consistently, not to censor consistently. And that's what I just said. They just did it for us, right? Nonetheless, McGill has chosen to open the door for more censorship, and it's a decision that will reverberate across our nation's campuses and have consequences for the very Jewish students and faculty she rightly wants to protect in this turbulent moment. While it may not be intuitive at first blush, there are good reasons why both the First Amendment and most colleges' free speech promises generally to protect even calls for genocide. The First Amendment protects against abstract advocacy of violence, including calls for genocide. Okay. See, I had it all wrong. When McGill and the presidents of Harvard and Massachusetts Institute of Technology said that whether calls for genocides are punishable depends on context before Congress, on Tuesday, they were correct. Harvard, Penn, MIT are private institutions, but they commit on paper, though often not in practice, to protecting free speech, so their students and faculty reasonably expect the benefit from First Amendment standard, which that has not been the case, right? And the First Amendment protects advocacy of violence so long as it doesn't cross the line to unprotected conduct or speech like incitement or true threats. These narrow, well-defined exceptions protect individuals from immediate threats to their physical safety without risking a widespread crackdown or dissenting or unpopular speech. Let's read that again. I didn't read that. These narrow, well-defined exceptions protect individuals from immediate threats to their physical safety without risking a widespread crackdown on dissenting or unpopular speech. So if it's directed towards somebody and you're calling for the threats, we need to go and murder, Howie fucking Emperstein or whatever. We need to go get him and string him up. I'm sorry, Epperstein. If there's a Howie Epperstein out there, I don't want no violence towards you. So it has to be directed, and okay, I get it. It can't. A broad general genocide is okay, but if it's narrowed down into one person, and you're like, "Go get him! We gotta kill him now!" Then it's not protected. I believe. I'm not a lawyer. I'm an idiot. And the First Amendment protects advocacy of violence, so as long as it doesn't cross the line into protected conduct or speech like incitement or true threats. Okay. The Supreme Court defined incitement in the landmark case Brandenburg v. Ohio. The justices held the First Amendment's protected speech at a KKK rally, complete with burning cross, where armed Klansmen used slurs against black and Jewish people, called for revengeance if the government continues to suppress the white Caucasian race, and announced a march on Congress on the 4th of July. The court made clear that speech promoting unlawful action loses First Amendment protection only if it is directed and likely to produce imminent lawless action. That's a necessarily high bar designed to protect a great deal of charged political expression by capturing only that speech that is all but inseparable from the unlawful action that directly follows it. So as long as there's no direct action that follows it and you're not directing it towards somebody in particular, then it's okay. We can just say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, indicating the genocide of all the Jews. Quoting an earlier decision, the court reiterated that mere abstract teaching of the moral propriety or even moral necessity for a resort to force and violence is not to see Palestine will be free, even if the chant were interpreted as supporting the ethnic cleansing of genocide of Israelis. But as FIRE's legal director Will Creeley recently explained, if the slogan were directed at a specific Jewish student by a student group moving threateningly towards him during a protest that has turned violent and unstable, it may arguably constitute a true threat. Moreover, a campus speaker's exhortations to a willing audience to attack a passerby might lawfully face punishment as incitement. What about harassment? Whether a call for genocide amounts to harassment also depends on context. Harassment is a pattern of unwanted behavior targeted at specific individuals, which may or may not include speech. Under the Supreme Court's standard for discriminatory harassment in the educational context, the conduct must be targeted, unwelcome, and so severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive that it effectively bars the victim's access to educational opportunity or benefit. The Department of Education has emphasized that harassment must include something beyond the mere expression of views, words, symbols, or thoughts that some person finds offensive. And that right there is the crux of the cracker, because that's what it's been for the last 10 to 15 years, is if you say something that you don't agree with, now you are harassing people because your words are seen as violence. But when it's put down on paper, It emphasizes that harassment must include something beyond the mere expression of views, words, symbols, or thoughts that some person finds offensive. Just because you support Israel and you feel offended by that doesn't mean that I'm harassing you. It just means that we don't agree. And we've had a lot of incidents on colleges where just a couple months ago, Roger Waters wasn't allowed to attend a conference, a pro-Palestine conference at a school, I believe in Pennsylvania, and he ended up not speaking because there was protests against him. Now I can imagine those same students protesting and wanting Roger Waters to come back and talk, because that's how big a sheep these people have turned into. These children have turned into sheep. It's there's no anti-authority anymore. There's no fucking rebellion nature. It's just their rebellion nature is like, just listen to whatever fucking the news tells us and do that. Like, that's not rebellion. That's fucking that's conforming. Fucking posers. Conformist. But to be clear, calling for genocide or violence could rise to the level of harassment. For example, if students repeatedly gathered outside Jewish students' dorm room and loudly called for Israel to be wiped off the map, that would certainly satisfy the Supreme Court standard. The issue is not so much the content of the speech, it's the targeted, extreme, repetitive, unwanted nature of it, which crosses the line into harassing conduct. Now, again, that makes sense to me. If I go up to some young lady and I'm just saying, I love Israel, fuck it, I love them, and I'm just following her around, she's like, oh, fuck you, from the ocean to the sea, or the river to the sea, the whole thing. That would be targeted harassment. That would be harassment. You can't just follow people around yelling at them, for more than a few seconds. A genocide exception to the First Amendment would have unintended consequences for free speech. But why protect even calls for genocide? It's completely understandable for people to pose this question. After all, the vast majority of us agree that genocide is evil and horrific. But most everyone also agrees in the abstract that hate is bad. While a ban on advocating genocide or mass killing may be somewhat more specific than a general ban on hate speech, it ultimately suffers from the same problems of vagueness and subjectivity. Oh, let's hope that they clarify that shit. As we've seen in the debate over Israel-Hamas war, people can't even agree on what constitutes genocide or advocacy of genocide. It's thankfully rare for someone to say explicitly, we should murder all the Jews. It's true. It's very rare. I think that, okay. When questioning the college president's Rep. Elise Stefanik equated calls for intifada with advocating genocide, but others say the term merely refers to a mass uprising seeking liberation from Israel. Meanwhile, many claim Israel's invasion of Gaza, which has killed thousands of civilians, is a genocide, while Israel's supporters call it self-defense. The right to engage in any of this speech would be subjective to the whims and biases of whoever happens to be enforcing the ban on genocide advocacy, and the result would be stunted debate and discussion about Israel-Hamas war and highly consequential geopolitical conflicts. The tendency to want to make exceptions for what's allowed to be said is all too human, particularly when it involves humanity's worst impulses. But trusting government officials and campus bureaucrats to police speech fairly and responsibly is naive and will likely only boomerang on those seeking censorship's illusory protections. Right, and that's what we're sort of seeing here. we can't trust the people in charge to decide what is and is not okay to say. It has to be something that is ingrained into our constitutional right to exist as a human, because it can easily be twisted into something that is tyrannical. By allowing people in charge to say what is and isn't okay to talk about, you're allowing them to put a limit on what you can and can't say, therefore limiting your God-given rights to free speech here in America. I don't know if that made sense. As Fire wrote, in reaction to McGill's statement, does anyone honestly believe this rule won't be weaponized to ban an Israeli cabinet official from speaking at Penn, an Israeli Defense Force soldier? To ask the question is to answer it, particularly when pro-Palestinian protesters and activists are advancing the same argument. Israel's action to Gaza amount to genocide too. Expand liberty, not censorship. Endorsement of an absolute ban on calls for genocide ultimately rests on the flawed idea that we should ban speech that is morally repugnant, makes people feel unsafe, or might lead to bad outcomes at some unknown future time. Those are the same fuzzy subjective justifications used to restrict expression about race, gender, abortion, and many other contentious social and political topics. The speech is offensive or harmful. Anyone rightfully concerned by such censorship should not want to legitimize it by enshrining its underlying rationale in the law or university speech codes. Doing so will open the door to even more speech restrictions. In fact, the Wharton Board of Advisors, which oversees Penn's prominent business school, has already proposed a resolution that would prohibit not just expression that celebrates murder or genocide, but also hate speech. Securing human rights and less hate-filled world are goals of utmost importance, but empowering governments, officials, and campus bureaucrats to censor speech won't get us any closer to achieving them. It will only result in more repression. Boom. This is a good-ass article, son. This is a good article. Oh, I'm going to keep that open. So, coming back here, let me see. This is the filmmaker. So, coming back to this article, I want people, Americans mostly, to understand the plight of the Palestinians. And this is the guy who made Waldorf with Roger Waters. I want people, Americans mostly, to understand the plight of the Palestinians, to understand what it means to live under military occupation, to understand the concept of ethnic cleansing, the meaning of apartheid, where it applies and where it doesn't with regard to Israel, and so on. Fuso said, for too long, the slogan Free Palestine has been conflated with accusations of anti-Semitism or other ill intentions, when in reality it calls for a self-determination and independence, he said. This Is Not a Drill was the 7th concert tour by the English songwriter in which began in Pittsburgh July 6, 2022, and ended in Quito, Ecuador on December 9, 2023. And he didn't hold back on sharing beliefs while on stage. Not only did Waters wear the Palestinian keffiyeh when he performed, but he included visuals in his performance that called for a stop of the genocide in Gaza. This isn't the first time Waters has experienced backlash. He previously faced allegations that a May performance in Berlin was anti-Semitic after he donned a Nazi-style black leather trench coat with a red armband that had 2 crossed hammers rather than a swastika. However, Waters took to his website to insist that the performance was quite clearly a statement in opposition to fascism, injustice, and bigotry in all its forms. And then, of course, we watched this. The Campaign Against Anti-Semitism previously told Newsweek it had gathered evidence of examples of Waters making anti-Semitic comments, which were presented in the documentary The Dark Side of Roger Waters. Roger Waters has repeatedly used his enormous platform to bait Jews, but he also claims that he's not anti-Semitic. We believe that there was further evidence out there to the contrary, and the release of Dark Side of Roger Waters now puts the evidence we obtained in the hands of the public. So that was said by the head of the CAA, the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. So again, he's been saying this shit for well over almost 20 years now. Again, we'll review a little bit of this. So Roger Waters wrongly says Hamas October 7th attack may have been false flag. And of course, they're saying this is complete nonsense. And this is from the Daily Beast, which is very lefty. But let's read through some of this. Well, there's going to be a lot of opinions in here. We actually watched the thing. Maybe we should just go to the video. Yeah, let's just go here and sort of watch a little bit of it.
Camps hear the bangs when they blew up whatever they had to blow up. Israelis not know this was going to happen, and I'm still a little bit.
Look. This is what he's saying. Right
on
here.
October 7th in Israel happened from Hamas. What was your reaction to that?
Let's wait and see what happened. Well, it was my first reaction. My second reaction was, how the hell did the Israelis not know this was going to happen? And I'm still a little bit down that rabbit hole. I mean, didn't the Israeli army in those 10 or 11 camps hear the bangs when they blew up whatever they had to blow up to get across the border? There's something very fishy about that.
Yeah, we had an Israeli Knesset member on who said it seems inconceivable. This is one of the most surveilled places on the planet. And there's obviously going to be a lot of investigation, maybe not an honest one, but Israelis are angry about that as well. What I'm asking about, though, is do you think...
Look, Roger was about to say some shit, and Glenn Greenwald just was like, all right, moving on.
Hamas did on October 7th can be justified?
Well, we don't know what they did do, but was it justified for them to resist the... I was reading a news story this morning, which, Grey Zone.
He doesn't want to say it. You see, and then this is the other part about it, is that there are people who get so embedded into these, into their causes that they won't allow themselves to even say it, right? Like Ben Shapiro's the same way, but he's opposite, right? He just is so entrenched in his culture, which he's culturally Jewish and religiously Jewish. He spends time in Israel. And he can't say that, you know, the Gaza Strip is occupied territory, or that there's settlers moving out. He won't say any of that shit. He won't say any of the atrocities that were committed against the Palestinians over the years by the Israelis. He won't say it, just as Roger Waters. So people become so emboldened in their ideas that they can't even fucking say it. It's like, man, unless those videos were faked, which I wouldn't put it past them, but from the evidence I've seen, it was war crimes. It's war crimes to go murder children and families in their homes, unarmed, by the way. Unarmed because Israel does not allow people to be armed. But yeah, he does kind of say it on here.
Our friend Max Blumenthal. So there's a long story which I read this morning, but Haaretz have finally come out with figures of how many people were actually killed and who they were.
On that day,
On that day, yeah. And so probably the first 400 were Israeli military personnel. That is not a war crime.
No, clearly everyone thinks military officials and military targets or soldiers in Israel are
well, it depends if
military
you believe
targets.
in the Geneva Conventions or not,
right?
Or the United Nations.
But what about targeting civilians or abducting them?
No, of course not.
Look, he was trying to think of he was doing mental gymnastics. Roger Waters just stopped and was like, No, there's no mental gymnastics around murdering innocent young people at a music festival who are high off their asses just trying to dance to fucking electronic music, and then you come paragliding in at like fucking some fucking angels from hell. Like, what the fuck, dude? Of course that's terrible.
Of course I don't condone that.
But is it false flag? Was it known? What was it? And he just said it. I don't condone it. So there it is. He doesn't condone it. So obviously there's been a lot of people, a lot of conspiracy theorists who come out and say it's obvious that it was an inside job. And they make it really hard. Like the news makes it really hard not to believe it. Now, again, I'm not saying it was an inside job. But did they know? Roger even says in there, he says, you know, how did they not know this was coming? When you're talking about the Mossad, when you're talking about the Israeli intelligence, when you're talking about how integrated they are with American intelligence and technology, and how we share intelligence and technology. Israel is so intertwined with the United States that we have several of our statesmen and stateswomen, senators, congress people, who have dual citizenship with Israel. I don't have a problem with people going back to Israel and going to the homeland and enjoying that and enjoying the ability to go there. But like to have a dual citizenship, I find it to be problematic. So this all leads us to the New York Times. Sorry. A New York Times article that I have not seen anyone really even talking about this. I've seen on TikTok people talk about it, but they're getting their shit removed. People are losing their accounts for talking about this, but like I haven't seen any, even like alt media really talk about this. Maybe I wasn't looking. And this came out like a week ago, at least a week or so ago. New York Times, Israel knew Hamas's attack plan more than 1 year ago. A blueprint reviewed by the Times laid out the attack in detail. Israeli officials dismissed it as an aspirational and ignored specific warnings. Sounds familiar, like 9/11. Israeli officials obtained Hamas's battle plan for the October 7th terrorist attack more than a year before it happened. Documents, emails, and interviews show. But Israeli military and intelligence officials dismissed the plan as aspirational, considering it too difficult for Hamas to carry out. It's not that difficult to train a bunch of assholes or to fucking... The paragliding is the thing that fucks with me. Like, it's such low tech. It's so low tech. But they fucking did it. The approximately 40-page document, which the Israeli authorities codenamed Jericho Wall, outlined point by point exactly the kind of devastating invasion that led to the deaths of about 1,200 Israeli people. The translated document, which was reviewed by the New York Times, did not set a date for the attack, but describes a methodical assault designed to overwhelm the fortifications around the Gaza Strip, take over Israeli cities, and storm key military bases, including a division headquarters. Hamas followed the blueprint with shocking precision. The document called for a barrage of rockets at the outset of the attack, drones to knock out the security cameras and automated machine guns along the border, and gunmen to pour into Israel en masse in paragliders, motorcycles, and on foot, all of which happened on October 7th. So it was completely laid out fucking in detail of what was going to happen. The plan also included details about the location and size of Israeli military forces, communication hubs, and other sensitive information, raising questions about how Hamas gathered its intelligence and whether there were leaks inside the Israeli security establishment. So this could be shit coming from the inside of Israel. The documents circulated widely among Israeli military and intelligence leaders, but experts determined that an attack to that scale and ambition was beyond Hamas's capabilities, according to the documents and officials. It is unclear whether President Minister Benjamin Netanyahu or other top political leaders saw the document as well. It's unclear. Last year, shortly after the document was obtained, this shit gets worse, by the way. This only gets worse. Last year, shortly after the document was obtained, officials in the Israeli military's Gaza division, which is responsible for defending the border with Gaza, said that Hamas's intentions were unclear. Okay. It is not yet possible to determine whether the plan has been fully accepted and how it will be manifested, read a military assessment reviewed by the Times. Then in July, just 3 months before the attacks, a veteran analyst, with Unit 8200, Israel's Signals Intelligence Agency warned that Hamas had conducted an intense day-long training exercise that appeared similar to what was outlined in the blueprint. So they found a fucking training facility. They saw them training for the shit that matches the blueprint. This is beyond the fucking 9/11 shit. This is fucking crazy. Like, how is nobody talking about this? But the colonel in the Gaza division brushed off her concerns, according to encrypted emails viewed by the Times. Is there like some machismo in Israel? Is there some like manly shit going on over there where she's a girl, she don't know shit? I utterly refute that the scenario is imaginary, the analyst wrote in the email exchanges. The Hamas training exercise, she said, fully matched the content of Jericho Wall. She utterly refutes that the scenario is imaginary. She's like, no, this is not imaginary. They knew. And this girl did her fucking job. This young Israeli woman, I don't know if she's young, did their job, and they were just like, they shot her down. I mean, it's just, it is a plan designed to start a war, she added. It's not just a raid on a village. And they knew that. They were like, yes, this will start a war. I don't know if they did. I don't know if they foresaw how fast the world turned on Israel. I mean, not everybody, but the people are supporting Palestine right now. That movement is huge. I don't know if they foresaw that. If this was sort of allowed to happen. Maybe it wasn't a false flag situation where they planned it, but it seems like this was something that was allowed to happen. Officials privately concede that the military taken these warnings seriously and redirected significant reinforcements to the south where Hamas attacked. Israel could have blunted the attacks or possibly even prevented them. Officials privately concede. They privately concede that had the military taken these warnings seriously, they could have probably stopped this. So either they weren't taking it seriously, or they just weren't, they let it happen. Either one is fucking unacceptable. You're either incompetent or you knew what was happening. Either one is unacceptable. Instead, the Israeli military was unprepared as terrorists streamed out of the Gaza Strip. It was the deadliest day in Israel's history. Israeli security officials have already acknowledged that they failed to protect the country, and the government is expected to assemble. Hey, what up, Opulence? Welcome in, buddy. Good to see you. Opulence is going to be on the show here coming up in about half an hour here. We're going to bring on our guest, or whenever he's ready. Whenever you're ready, buddy, just let me know. I'm going to finish up this segment, and then we'll get on to our guest today. Where the freak? Yeah, you ready to go? Okay, cool. I'm going to just finish this segment, and then we'll just bring on Opulence. Israeli security officials have already acknowledged that they failed to protect the country, and the government is expected to assemble a commission to study the events leading up to the attacks. Right, because we all know how these investigations go by our governments. They always get to the bottom of shit. The Jericho Wall document lays bare a years-long cascade of missteps that culminated in what officials now regard as the worst Israeli intelligence failure since the surprise attack that led to the Arab-Israeli War in 1973. Underpinning all of these failures was a single fatally inaccurate belief that Hamas lacked the capability to attack and would not dare to do so. That belief is so ingrained in the Israeli government, officials said, that they disregarded growing evidence to the contrary. And you even see that, the Israelis are surrounded by enemies, and they are very comfortable, but it's also very locked down culture, man. You can't go into a movie theater without getting wanded with a metal detector. Officials would not say how they obtained the Jericho Wall document, but it was among several versions of attack plans collected over the years. A 2016 Defense Ministry memorandum viewed by the Times, for example, says Hamas intend to move the next confrontation into Israeli territory. Such an attack would most likely involve hostage taking and occupying the Israeli community, and perhaps even a number of communities, the memo reads. Jericho Wall document, named for the ancient fortifications in the modern-day West Bank, was even more explicit in detailed rocket attacks to distract Israeli soldiers and send them hurrying into bunkers and drones to disable the elaborate security measures along the border fence separating Israel and Gaza. So, this was very detailed. This is what they knew all this shit. Hamas fighters would then break through 60 points in the wall, storming a crowd. Okay, so we know what happened. One of the most important objectives outlined in the document was to overrun the Israeli military base of Reem, which is home to the Gaza division responsible for protecting the region. Other bases that fell under the division's command were also listed. Hamas carried out that objective, rampaging through Reem and overrunning parts. So, they knew what fucking military bases. And do you guys remember those videos? Like, where were the fucking soldiers? Why were they just allowed to walk right on these bases? You didn't see any soldiers running around. It was just empty barracks and shit. So it does make you wonder. Let's see. The memo, which was viewed by the Times, said that Hamas had purchased sophisticated weapons, GPS jammers, and drones. So they knew that they were fucking buying this shit. What up, Movie Dutchman? Good to see you, my friend. They knew they were buying all the equipment for this stuff. Huh? They saw that they were purchasing the stuff. It also says that Hamas had increased its fighting force to 27,000 people, having added 6,000 to its ranks into a 2-year period. Hamas had hoped to reach 40,000 by 2020, the memo determined, so they knew they were building up forces. Last year, Israel obtained the Jericho Wall document. The military's division drafted its own... military... Oh my God. The military's Gaza division drafted its own intelligence assessment of the latest invasion plans. Hamas had decided to plan a new raid unprecedented in its scope, analysis wrote in the assessment reviewed by the Times. It said that Hamas intended to carry out the deception operation, followed by a large-scale maneuver with the aim of overwhelming the division. On July 6, 2023, the veteran Unit 8200 analysis wrote to a group of other intelligence experts that dozens of Hamas commandos had recently conducted training exercises with senior Hamas commanders observing. The training included dry runs. Yeah, they already covered this. In short, let's wait patiently, the colonel wrote. So they're telling this analyst, yeah, we'll see what happens. So the failures to connect the dots echoed another analytical failure. More than 2 decades ago, the American authorities also had multiple indications that the terrorist group Al-Qaeda was preparing an assault. September 11, 2001 attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon were largely a failure of analysis, imagination, and a government commission concluded. So they just said it was largely a failure of analysis and imagination. That's a shit reason for two towers to just come crumbling down. The Israeli intelligence failure on October 7th is sounding more and more like our 9/11, said Ted Singer, a recently retired senior CIA official who worked extensively to paint a convincing picture to military and political leaders that Hamas had the intention to launch the attack when it did it. So, yes, it rings out, but god damn, they knew a lot of shit before it happened. And you know what the other interesting thing is? And I think we covered this here too. So before the attack happened, we had unknown trades going on. Unknown traders appear to have anticipated October 7th Hamas attack. Research finds. Bets against the value University and details a significant and unusual spike 5 days before the attacks in short selling in the most popular fund linked to Israeli companies. Short selling is a way to bet against the value of a security. Those bets against the value of the MSCI Israel Exchange funded fund in the days before the October 7th attack far exceeded the short selling activity that took place during the COVID-19 pandemic and the 2014 Israel-Gaza war and the 2008 financial crisis, the papers find. So it far exceeded. So all these, which is funny because they're indicating that all these other ones, people were trading and betting against the house that COVID-19 was going to happen, the 2014 Israel-Gaza thing was going to happen, and the 2008 financial crisis, which there were a ton of people who made billions of dollars off of the failure of the financial system back in 2008. It's just weird, right? It's just a little fucking weird. The evidence that informed traders profited by anticipating the terrorist attacks of October 7th is strong. Regulators appear to lack the ability to discover the entities responsible for this trading, which is unfortunate. Oh, god dang it. Gosh darn it, by taking a risk, yes. But what indicates that? What indicates that there's a risk? Why? How did they know to put their money? You know, like something something tipped them off, right? It's not just guesses, or maybe it is. Maybe it's all a coincidence. Trading in Terror was written by former SEC Commissioner Robert Jackson, who is currently professor at NYU. Okay, and then here's another fun part of this thing. we know about the $500 billion worth of oil that's being extracted by Israel that's on the occupied territories. And that they want to build a new, not a trench, but they want to build a new canal that goes through Gaza. Israel does. There's evidence that, there's good reasons they want the Palestinians gone, right? And then we talked about this too, a month or two before all of this, yes, they were probably time traveling, like Marty McFly, Moving Dutchman. They had the almanac. You made me lose my spot. Corruption trial. So before the actual attack, I think it was back in July or even August, that Israel was in a upheaval. They were protesting because they were trying to take power away from their Supreme Court and make it and only land it in the power of one person, which is the PM Netanyahu. Which, by the way, before the attack on October 7th, there was a corruption trial, and it's resuming now. Corruption trial of Israeli PM Netanyahu resumes. An emergency order from Israel's justice minister following the events of October 7th had put the case on pause. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is due. Are we back? Damn it. Hold on. We back yet? Are we back? Are we back? Are we back? Are we? Are we? Are we back? I don't think we're back. The Israelis can't. What the fuck? What is going on? Let me see. Okay, we're back. We're back. That was annoying. Sorry about that. So I do want to kind of round it back. So just for editing purposes. So we're going to jump back into what we were just talking about. So out of all of this, just a couple months ago, before the invasion on October 7th, Israel was up in arms. There was an upheaval. They were protesting against them trying to become a tyrannical government. They were trying to take the power out of the Supreme Court, which they have a prime minister and a Supreme Court. Like America has three divisions of our system here. So it's the president, the judicial, which is some Supreme Court, and the other ones, which is the Congress and the Senate, right? Whatever that one's called. God, I suck. And they were trying to take, so they only have two divisions of power, right? And they were trying to take away that. So you had a whole of people were protesting across the country, And in fact, they had corruption. There was a corruption trial of the prime minister before. It's a Windows update. It might have been. I don't know, but that fucking sucked. That totally ruined my fucking whole thing. So let's read through this, and then we'll start moving on to our next thing on the docket here. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is faced a resumption of his long-running trial on numerous corruption charges after a pause due to the war in Gaza, which is like, hey, that's a great reason to allow an attack. Wartime brings people together, and wartime also brings support for the leaders, especially if they're taking it. I'm back, movie Dutchman. Especially if they are, as long as everybody's on board, they usually support their leaders. And it's just when you fail to follow through with your promises, which most politicians, that's how they operate. A court in Jerusalem is set to start hearing the case, which is focused on several corruption charges against Netanyahu on Monday, according to reports in the Israeli media. The trial was paused on an emergency order from the country's justice minister following the Hamas's attack on Israel in October 7th. Netanyahu has been charged with fraud, bribery, and breach of trust in 3 cases filed in 2019, known as Case 1000, 2000, and 4000. In Case 1000, the Prime Minister, along with his wife Sarah, is accused of receiving gifts, including champagne and cigars, from prominent Hollywood producer Aaron Michelin and Australian billionaire businessman James Packer in return for political favors. Bribery charges carry a sentence up to 10 years in jail or a fine. Fraud and breach of trust carry a prison sentence for up to 3 years. This is just how politics work in general, by the way. This is not like just Benjamin Netanyahu is out here doing this. Israel's long-serving prime minister has denied any wrongdoing. He claims to be the victim of a politically orchestrated witch hunt by rivals and the media to remove him from office. The trial got underway in May 2020 and has been reportedly delayed over defense and prosecution disputes and the COVID-19 pandemic. Wow, just all these things are so convenient for him. Meanwhile, Netanyahu has been accused of using the legislation to try to circumvent his legal problems amid the prime minister's controversial plans to overhaul the judicial system. This is what I was talking about, the judicial system. Israel had been mired in months of protests ahead of the October 7th attacks. Critics have said the proposed charges would politicize the judiciary and compromise its independence, foster corruption, and harm Israel's economy. Netanyahu has defended the push to dismiss the protests, stating that he aims to restore a proper balance between the 3 branches. Oh, so he does have 3 branches of government. Well, look at that. So there you go. So there is a lot going on. Obviously, $500 billion reason to be subjugated for Palestine. All kinds of stuff here this guy is writing about. By now, you've probably heard about what is going on in Palestine. We've been told that a mass offense on Palestine by Israel is in self-defense after Hamas attacked and killed 1,400 Israeli. Yet the mass bombing of Palestinian civilian infrastructure and the only open escape routes has led to the death of over 10,000 Palestinians. 4,000 of them children, 2,500 of them women, and 611 elderly. Both sides have, and now it's up to 17,700 as the latest number I heard. Both sides have suffered tragedy, yet the conflict remains profoundly as symmetrical. Why is Israel conducting such a disproportionate response and willing to commit war crimes in the process? Some have pointed out to the expansionist, racist, dehumanizing, and fascist-leaning nature of Zionist Israeli state, which many Jews are firmly against. Indeed, I have made this point myself in a previous article, but the reason behind this heinous oppression and conflict and subsequent Western support might be far more black and white. One that is repeated time and time again through the annals of history. It's all about those fossil fuels. It doesn't say how many Hamas lovers of those 10,000. How many of them loved Hamas? Because that would validate them to be dead, right? I recently read a fascinating article by Rachel Donald, read it here, which we can't, where she highlighted a recent UNCTAD study that found underneath the occupied Palestinian territory, such as Area C of the West Bank and the Mediterranean coast of the Gaza Strip, there are vast reservoirs of oil and natural gas. Studies have found this territory contains 122 trillion cubic feet of natural gas and 1.7 billion barrels of oil. All of this is worth around $524 billion. However, as Donald points out, the UN report questions Israel's national right to these resources and argues they should be shared among the local parties, especially as most of these reserves are in formerly Palestinian-held territories, which Israel has occupied under deeply questionable means. Despite this, Israel has for decades been the only nation profiting off the regional gas and oil fields it effectively stole from Palestine. They even refused to supply Palestine with natural gas and let them extract it, as Israel is worried it would fund terrorism. So there you go. A mostly published. It's always, but I always wonder about missing published facts. Yeah, I suppose you're right. It's hard to know what's true and what's not. I guess all we can do is have some sort of trust in institutions, even though they've proven that they can't be trusted, such as CNN, New York Times, Medium, I guess. Al Jazeera obviously has a slant. Newsweek, I mean, they've all just been mouthpieces of a government for one thing or another. Well, all is true, but from what perception? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's true to whoever's saying it, I guess. So there we are. So I don't know. Was this something that was allowed? Was this attack on October 7th something that was allowed to happen? Is Roger Waters right? I mean, what's crazy is that this article by the New York Times, which again, no one's really talking about this, that they knew about this attack a year or even more ahead of it. You had Israeli analysts emphatically backing up their reports. Okay, I gotta pee, and then we're gonna bring on our guest today. All right, so let me go to the bathroom, and I might get some more coffee. Honestly, I might just get all coffeeed up and just start going fucking crazy, son. All right, let me put on some videos. We're gonna get Opulence on.